Senator Mark Kelly didn't come to play. He came to expose the truth behind a $1 trillion missile defense fantasy. And the moment he asked Pete Hegseth the one question that actually matters, can this system stop a real nuclear salvo? Everything fell apart.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Secretary, I want to talk about the proposed Golden Dome missile defense system. There's a request to spend $25 billion in this year alone. First of all, is this system designed to intercept a full salvo attack?
Senator, it's a multi-layer system that would include different types of salvos. Obviously,
so it's not just Rogue Nation. Okay.
Well, it's meant to. Yes, it's not meant to be just one nation. It could be utilized in
against Russia and China, full salvo. So, what kind of reliability are you aiming to build into the system? Are we looking for something like 4 nines on intercept success? 99.99% reliability.
Obviously, you seek the highest possible. You begin with what you have and integrating those C2 networks and sensors, building up capabilities that are existing with an eye toward future capabilities that can come online as quickly as possible, not just ground-based, but space-based.
So against future capability too. So do you believe that we can build a system that can intercept all incoming threats? You think we could build that system? This is a very hard physics problem.
You would know as well as anybody, sir, how difficult this problem is, and that's why we put our best people on it. We think the American people deserve it.
So let me tell you what I think we're facing here. You're talking about hundreds of ICBMs launched simultaneously, varying trajectories, MIRVs, so multiple reentry vehicles, thousands of decoys, hypersonic glide vehicles, all at once. And considering what the future threat might be, it might even be more complicated than that. And you're proposing spending not just $25 billion, but upwards of, I think CBO estimated this at least $500 billion, other estimates $1 trillion. I am all for having a system that would work. I am not sure that the physics can get there on this. It's incredibly complicated. So I want to get to another issue that you're facing here. How much of the staff of the Office of the Director of Operational Test and Evaluation did you cut?
After collaboration, sir, with the service departments, the Joint Staff, and others, we identified that as a place where there were redundancies and multiple additional layers that were unnecessary.
I'll tell you what you cut. You cut 74%.
Most of it. That's what I was going to say.
Most of it. And was your decision to cut more than half of the Pentagon's testing and evaluation office staff driven in part by concerns about the office's plan to oversee testing of Golden Dome?
The concerns were not specific to Golden Dome, sir. It was years and years of delays unnecessarily based on redundancies in the decision-making process that the services, COCOMs, and the Joint Staff, together with OSD, identified as a logjam that was not helping the process.
To get the reliability we would need, you need something that's at 4 nines, 99.99% reliability, with all these challenges. And you cut the staff of the people who are going to make sure this thing works before we make it operational, before we give it to the warfighters. You got to go back and take a look at this. But I also strongly encourage you to put together before we spend $25 billion or $175 billion or $563 billion or $1 trillion, put together a group of people to figure out if the physics will work. You could go down a road here and spend hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars of the taxpayer money, get to the end, and we have a system that is not functional. That very well could happen. And you're doing this just because the president, and I understand your role as the Secretary of Defense. You got to execute what the president says. But this idea, might not be fully baked. And you can get in front of it now and figure out and find out if you put the right physicists on this. And I'm not saying go to the big defense contractors. I'm going to scientists, and I know there's a questionable relationship with this administration and scientists, but go to some scientists, figure out what we would have to do to build a system and then make smart decisions before we spend hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars.
Senator, we're doing that, leveraging existing technologies and not premising the project on aspirational technologies, what we can actually do, and would welcome.
Well, $25 billion in the first year is a lot of money. That's more than just figuring out if we have the ability to build a system that can handle a full salvo threat, hypersonic glide vehicles, MERS, thousands of decoys. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Chairman.
you, Senator Kelly. Senator Sheehy.
Senator Mark Kelly didn't come into this hearing to score points. He came to force a reality check on a defense proposal that sounds impressive in a press release, but collapses under actual science. And watching Pete Hegseth try to defend the Golden Dome missile defense plan is like watching someone insist they can build a ladder to the moon if you just give them another $1 trillion. Kelly begins with the simplest question possible. Can this system intercept a full salvo attack? Not a rogue missile, not a single test projectile, a full-scale barrage from major nuclear powers like Russia or China. That question alone cuts through all the buzzwords. Because when you talk about a real-world nuclear scenario, you're talking about hundreds of ICBMs launched simultaneously, multiple warheads per missile, thousands of decoys, hypersonic glide vehicles moving unpredictably, and all of it arriving within minutes. This is not sci-fi imagination. This is the physics problem the U.S. would actually face. Hegseth starts with vague language about multi-layer systems and integrating existing capabilities, which is political speak for, we don't actually have this figured out, but we'd like the money anyway. Kelly presses him. What reliability level are you aiming for? 99.99%? That's what you would need if you're trying to stop a nuclear strike. Because missing just one warhead, just one, can kill hundreds of thousands of people. And this is where Hegseth slips. He admits the truth without realizing it. This is a very hard physics problem. In other words, even with unlimited money, unlimited engineering talent, and unlimited patriotism, the laws of physics do not negotiate. When Kelly, the former NASA astronaut, Navy captain, and test pilot, says the physics may not allow this system to exist, that's not a political job. That's expertise. That's lived experience. Then we get to the bombshell. While pushing a system requiring near-perfect reliability, Hegseth cut more than half of the Pentagon's testing and evaluation staff, the exact people whose job is to determine whether the system actually works. Kelly forces him to admit it. Most of the office was gutted. And when asked whether the cuts were related to oversight of the Golden Dome project, Hegseth hides behind bureaucratic excuses about redundancies and layers. But what Kelly points out is devastating. You need extreme precision, extreme validation, and extreme independent testing. But the secretary slashed the one office capable of providing it. Kelly paints the full picture plainly. The U.S. could spend $25 billion this year, then $175 billion, then $563 billion, and eventually upwards of $1 trillion, only to reach the end of the road and discover the system cannot work. Not because the engineers were lazy, not because the Pentagon didn't try, but because the underlying physics of hypersonic weapons, decoy clouds, multiple warheads, and simultaneous trajectories may make this shield fundamentally impossible. Kelly urges something radical in Washington. Stop, breathe, and ask scientists first. Not contractors, not lobbyists, scientists. Because if the science cannot support the mission, then the mission is just a $1 trillion fantasy. This exchange exposes the real danger of the Golden Dome proposal. Not just the cost, not just the complexity, but the possibility that the administration is sprinting into a mega project with political pressure and no scientific foundation. Kelly warns Hegseth clearly, you can get ahead of this now, or you can waste a colossal amount of taxpayer money only to end up with a system that fails at the exact moment it is needed most. And when Kelly, who has literally lived through the physics of spaceflight, tells you something is impossible, you should listen. If you want more breakdowns that cut through political theater and get to the truth behind these massive decisions affecting national security, stay tuned, subscribe, and keep demanding transparency, because trillion-dollar mistakes don't just stay in the Pentagon. They become your tax bill, your national vulnerability, and your future.